introduce myself. I'm Lika Merabishvili. I represent StrategEast, project manager for Caucasus region. I'm based in Tbilisi, Georgia, but I'm responsible for Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan also. I'm very happy and grateful that I'm the moderator of this session because I have great people here who plan to share their experience about the startups acceleration. This is the topic of this session. We know that IT sector has become a significant factor of development of the Eurasian countries' economy, but still we have some kind of problems to outsource or outstaff for the international market, for the Eurasian countries. And we will talk about how to help startups, how to contribute startups to get a new market, global market, and we will talk about these issues. So, first speaker is Mr. Emin Aliev, who is the founder of Partnership Center. I met him yesterday and I found that he has great expertise. He's in many aspects. And he will talk about the rules of engagement for startups into the strategic partnership with the giant global companies. So we will have the speeches, maybe 7-8 minutes, and after 5 speakers, we will have the opportunity to ask the questions, so Q&A session. Please.
All right, thank you. May I stand actually, because it's, yeah, okay. Sorry for turning back to you. Hello, everyone. My name is Emin. I've been working in the digital industry for the last 20 years, first in the US and then in Eastern Europe. And currently, I work for Meta platforms, which is Facebook and Instagram, helping our largest partners in the region become more successful and grow faster with us. However, today here, I am not on behalf of Meta. I'm here today because I have collected my knowledge and experience on the topics of how can startups or mid-sized companies partner with large global companies like Meta or Google or Amazon or Coca-Cola, you name it. And here today, I would love to talk to you about that. But first, let me ask you a question. What is the #1 barrier that prevents startups from this region from partnering with large global companies? What is the #1 reason, what is the #1 barrier that wouldn't let them partner well? Yes, please.
Hello. Well, we discussed this before, but lack of understanding of global norms and standards of behavior.
All right. Thank you, Daniel.
That's my experience.
So that's a good one. Anyone else? No? Yes, please. Lack of trust. That's a great one, actually. Thank you. Thank you very much. So before I give my answer, let me talk about the 3 things here. What is a strategic partnership for startup? Why should you think of partnering with a large company? And third, how you should go about it. So first of all, in order to answer the question, what is the strategic partnership, you should first ask yourself, what is my superpower? If you look at this picture here, Google just recently announced a partnership with Coinbase, where Google Cloud will allow all of their customers, B2B customers, to use Coinbase for crypto payments. So this is a great partnership where Google brings to the table what? What superpower? The B2B customers, right? Their customer base. And Coinbase brings to the table their superpower, which is their knowledge of blockchain and crypto, right? So together, they create immense value, a lot of value for the end customers. Now, what you should do is ask yourself, what is my startup's superpower? Not like this, what is my superpower, right? And that question will help you answer what is the strategic partnership, what does it mean for you? The second question that people usually ask is why? It takes a lot of time. Why don't we just do sales, right? If you are a startup and you're selling, let's say, to B2C or B2B2C clients, your ability to scale is usually limited by your budgets, by your team, and everything. Partnering with a much larger organization for their distribution superpower, maybe it's a great product fit or something else, would actually allow you to scale 10 times faster. As an example here, this is Meta's VR platform. So Meta Quest, Meta Quest 2, now just Meta recently announced the Meta Pro headset. This is only a few years old. And at the same time, companies that have invested in building VR apps on Meta platform have benefited immensely. So maybe you want to save the world, and you just know that you can do it much faster and in a more efficient way by partnering with a large company. Or maybe you want to make a lot of money for yourselves, your founders, your team, your investors. This is a great way to do it, to partner with a large. So this is the answer to the second question, which is why. And then the third question is how. Usually, there is a gap. In 99.9% of cases, there is usually a gap between a smaller or mid-sized company and a large company like Amazon or Meta or Microsoft or Google. So how you can do it is by bridging that gap. And that gap between a smaller player and a large company can be bridged by using an algorithm, and that's 4 steps. It's 4 areas that you should concentrate on. So the first one is the strategic fit. That's how you start. And we don't have much time, so I'm almost done. The first one is strategic fit. The second is your assessment of risk versus reward. So your reward that you will get versus the risks that you will bear versus theirs, the larger partner. There's a methodology for that. The third is trust. Absolutely right. You're entering the partnership or you're approaching a potential partner at some level of trust. I don't know, 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10. So the idea is to understand where you are and keep growing that trust in a partnership as it progresses at all times. And the last thing is the capabilities pyramid. You start at a certain level of capabilities, and then the idea is that you know what it is, your partner knows what it is, and then you both are growing your capabilities together to deliver bigger and bigger value for your end users. So once you master the whole thing, once you master these 4 kind of things, areas of focus in the algorithm, what you should do is repeat how many strategic partnerships you should have, as many as you feel for the business, but you need to start somewhere. And this is what I would like to our panel at some point to talk. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I said we have great speakers here. You gave us superpower after like local plow and local tea. Thank you, Mr. Emin Aliev. By the way, I was looking for you on Facebook and couldn't find. Don't you have Meta product? Don't you use? Yes? Okay. Okay, thank you. So we have the next great speaker here, Burry, who is co-CEO of US Market Access Center. He will talk about 5 tips how to become a global company from a local, regional one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the whole StrategEast team for having me here. I was asked to, sort of talk some about the process of becoming sort of a global entrepreneur, particularly how do you go from a place like Central Asia and scale your company into global markets and into Silicon Valley. And the reality is, it's all in your head. There are just different patterns that global entrepreneurs, the way that they think. We call this a mindset. I learned this over my own personal journey. I've had a total of 9 companies, 3 exits, 3 companies that they were learning experiences, we like to call it that. Raised a lot of money, almost 500 million for my various companies, had about 1.6 billion in exit value. And what I learned on that journey is that if you want to be globally competitive, you have to really think very differently. You have to have a different mindset. And what we at US MAC have done over the last 11 years is primarily worked with founders around the world on mindset. You know, some people call us an accelerator, sometimes we call ourselves an accelerator, but we're really much more focused on helping founders change how they think. If we can build better founders, those founders go on to build better companies. And for those of you that are founders or work with founders, we believe that this different mindset can be taught. And there's really sort of 5 mindset shifts that we think that you need to make if you want to be successful in making this transition from being a local or regional startup to a truly global startup. The first is that you have to become deeply customer-centric. The thing that we see all over the world is that founders spend too much time thinking about the question of what is my product going to do? And if you start talking to them, if you introduce yourself and then you ask them, oh, so, you know, tell me about what you're doing, they launch into this feature function discussion. And 30 seconds in, you're like, please make it stop. A minute in, you're trying to figure out how to run away. What you've got to learn how to do is to have a discussion about how can you help your customers create enormous value? How do we create value together? And related to that is this idea of you have to move from being a product builder to a company builder as well. You want to be able to say, you know, you still have to build the product. How can I build a product that my customers love, right? It's not about the features, it's about a product that creates value. But the second piece is, how do I build a company that can deliver great value for my customers? And that's very different. And as you go from being local to global, you need different processes, you need different people, you need different approaches. And you really need to stop and transition as the founder to being a company builder while you transition off the product building to other people. And as you make this transition, you also have to make a critical transition as a founder around how do I think about how decisions are made? How is my company organized? When you're the founder, you're the CEO, you're the member of the founding team, you know, it's a very small group of people who get involved in making all of the decisions. When you have a team in 38 countries, if you're still the person making all the decisions, A, you're not sleeping, and B, the decisions you're making aren't good. So you've got to learn to be able to help those who are close to the customer be the ones that make the decision. You notice this again ties back to this idea of being customer-centric. Those that are closest to the customer are actually where the power lives. A great way of thinking about this, just on a practical level, that one of my mentors taught me was this idea of, if you think of your company as a boat, the amount of the boat that's below the waterline is actually pretty small. And you can put holes in the boat above the waterline, and it's messy, and you may have to fix things, but you're not going to generally sink the boat. If you put holes below the waterline, the boat tends to sink. So you as the founder or you as the executive team want to be focused on those decisions that are below the waterline. And any of the decisions that are above the waterline, you want to be able to distribute to the rest of your team. And the last related thing to this, before I get to my final point, is we as founders love to talk about our baby. We love to describe our product. Look at all of the features. You're like a parent, you know, look at the eyes, look at the hair, look at the hands. I actually had some people I worked with in Finland that did a fascinating study where they put some founders in a functional MRI. and they showed the founder a picture of their actual flesh and blood child and watched how the brain lit up. And then they put a picture of their product, like the app, and their brain lit up the exact same way, right? You know, but you don't want to talk about the baby. You have to be able to tell the story, not the facts, that help the customer understand how can you create value. And the last piece, which is really, I think, often the hardest of all of this to do, is we typically create companies that function well in our home culture. The patterns of decision making, how we talk, how we communicate, how we resolve conflict, all of those kinds of things tend to be very localized. And as you expand globally, you have to find ways to adapt your culture to work in multiple countries. The kind of corporate culture that will work here in Uzbekistan will not work in Japan, it will not work in Brazil, it will not work in the United States. Likewise, a culture in the United States won't necessarily work, a corporate culture won't necessarily work here. So those are my quick walk through these sort of 5 critical shifts that I think founders need to make. And please feel free to reach out to me. If you take a quick picture of my QR code, that'll find me on LinkedIn. And thank you again to StrategEast for having me here.
Thank you, Mr. Chris. I think these tips will work not only for startup companies, but also for all the organizations. And I'm lucky that I have this presentation on my computer, so I can look at, look at it from time to time. Okay, next, our speaker is Mr. Rozik Chorshambiev, who is the country manager for Tajikistan from Accelerate Prosperity, and he will talk about venture investments, potentials, and challenges in Tajikistan.
Good evening already, I think. My name is Rozik. I'm the country director for Accelerate Prosperity. So before going to some thoughts more on the Central Asian level rather than global, I would like to just very brief what it is to have the sense, basically what we are doing and why we are doing. Basically, the main, let's say, point of Accelerate Prosperity is not about, we are not aiming to create a unicorn. For us, it's not the final target. Yeah, we are more like on general development. It's more like we believe that each country has its own strength. So if some countries are in something better, we should take those competitive advantage and more invest in those countries and that sectors to make them stronger, more competitive, because the days will come when the market will be more open and the big corporation will come into our market, so we should be more competitive. So it's more from the point that become our market more competitive rather than create unicorns. But anyway, we were founded 5 years ago with very small funding. I think we had something like $200,000 5 years ago to create an organization and to do this business acceleration, incubation, this stuff. Today we are working in 4 countries. We have multi-million budgets. So what we understood over this 5 years, it's not about money in this world. Money is everywhere. It's all about doing the quality work to create a trust and that the money flows itself to you. So basically, this is what we built, and we built in 4 countries, Tajikistan, Pakistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Afghanistan. And in each country, we focus on something that is much stronger. For example, in Kyrgyzstan, it's more in IT, so like Codify and NBFit and these companies, we are the equity holders, and we were the one that accelerated some point and brought to the other stage of financing. While in Tajikistan, we do more traditional businesses, service sector, education, health. In Pakistan, it's more health tech and edutech and this. Our founders, it's Aga Khan Foundation and Aga Khan Fund for Economic Development. Basically, Aga Khan Fund for Economic Development, it's an economic arms of Aga Khan Foundation. It's owns nearly, it has 120 companies with annual turnover nearly $5 billion. So it's quite let's say, a big player working in many countries, and the same Aga Khan Foundation is more the social arm. So that's what defines our mission. We do social entrepreneurship rather than creating unicorns. And the service that we provide, more or less, they are the same in all countries, but we do the incubation, we do the acceleration services, and we do also financing. So we do financing right now up to $500,000 maximum, but we already looking at some cases that it exceeds this amount whenever it makes sense. So if we look just like some targets, some let's say figures, so far in this 5 years we financed 261 companies and different LLCs, some of them very in this startup, very early stage, but so far with we have provided nearly 5 million. It's already exceeding $5 million from our own funding, while we also leveraged more than 7 million from the entrepreneurs and other sources in these startups. So what's basically, beside this, that we done these figures, just for the general view. Of course, there are many challenges that facing, and most of them, it's not only for Tajikistan case, but it's for the whole region, because by itself, each our country is not, let's say, strong enough, not big enough in terms of population or market capacity. So, for example, in Tajikistan, it's one of the main issues is the legislation part and taxation. Yeah, it's like the form of registration of business incubators, accelerators, and the investment funds, those, it's harms. Yeah, at some point, you do within some local laws, you grow. And at some point, you come to the ceiling that basically you have to go into the policy development in order to make this growth further. So this is what we right now do in several countries, including Tajikistan. We're coming to the legislation change. And those legislations, it's not only for internally, but it's also bringing investors. So the trust that we were talking about, we struck 3 deals with American investors, and 2 of them at least failed, simply because the trust was, in the end, we lost it. And part of it is from the operational. It's not something that trust comes. It's being built, and the trust is built through transparency. And when there is a black market, double accounting, and this, it's already not the area that investors come. So I think one of the, but at the same time, on the other hand, there is not a single startup in the world that would grow without investors. So if investor doesn't come because your legislation is bad, that doesn't happen, will not happen most probably, that you will grow with this, without investors, you will grow into something, the world-class startup or business. So there are other issues like the high tax. I mean, I sometimes joke that people say that the most sensitive in this world is women heart, but I don't believe it's the money. Whenever there is something risk for them, they flow immediately to the other market. If you make condition for them, they flow to your area. So, for example, in Tajikistan, when you take out the capital from the country, you have to pay 20% tax. So the initial aim that to hold the capital within the country, it brought to the thing that the capital doesn't come to the country, because otherwise you should leave the money, leave its sensitivity, feel it, and play with it. So, and then it comes to some very things that coming from all the time that, and the legislation that I don't know, might be in other countries, Central Asia as well, that you can't value when you come, just simple things that when you start usually with LLC and you come and you can't value the knowledge of the startuppers. You say that I value his knowledge for 70% and here is my money for 30%. Then you have a problem in the tax committee, because where is the 70% of the cash from this guy? And you can't value his head for this amount. This is, I mean, challenges that comes. Doesn't happen when you invest $10,000 or $20,000, but this issue will come when you go above $100,000 investment, and especially when it's in equity. And then when we talk, I mean, this unicorns or something that you create an IT hub and then suddenly you get into the world market, it's also not the story we believe. I think it's more, I believe more, I would say, it's a whole ecosystem. So if you don't invest in the IT courses or in schools that have good technical schools and good computers with internet, you don't expect that you will have great startups in the IT sector. So a lot of issues with this tech, with accelerators, venture funds, that lack of them, at the same time, lack of examples. Yeah, that good, it's now became more trend in the last 3-4 years, and basically thanks to Aliev and Aziz John sitting here with Ziplay and those that create some hype and something is moving and government getting more interested. And that helps also getting to Central Asian markets and further to other markets. So far, basically, those IT businesses that come to us, I basically recommend them go to Astana Hub or to most ventures to Kazakhstan, basically. I mean, there's not much to develop with them in the country because so many things missing that you lose time. While you lose time, you lose the opportunity. So time is the very, key in this. So, and in the end, of course, it's a lack of cooperation. It's not about the cooperation making some events, but it's more integrational processes on the Central Asian. So, I mean, if it would be my idea, I would remove all these 5 countries and create one country with a nice ecosystem that, I mean, we would be much better and more competitive in the world and much better than playing with different, let's say, rules within our countries. So I'm talking this about not from the political, it's more from the investment and money flow point of view and development. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rozik. You have great advancements in your country, in Tajikistan, and challenges kind of like legislation and taxation. I think it's everyone's pain, not only yours. Do you agree with me? Okay, so you can't imagine how I was waiting for this time, because I'm so proud we have the next speaker from Georgia, and you know, like, Georgia is a small country and we love seeing each other on the stage. So next speaker is Mr. Avtandil Kasradze. He is a chairman from Innovation and Technology Agency. We call it like JITA, and he will talk about the strategic projects for startups and also IT trainings. I will just add that StrategEast, in the collaboration with JITA, had trained young people and helped them to get good jobs in our country. Okay, Mr. Avtandil, it's now your turn. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. First of all, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me for this conference. Yes, we have a long-standing and very good relationship with StrategEast. And definitely, we already managed to do very important things in Georgia, and we will continue on this direction. We are a governmental organization in Georgia. We are under Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development, and our primary focus is to develop innovation ecosystem in the country. It means that to support the creation global scalable startups in Georgia who can compete outside of the Georgia. So we are doing a lot of different events and programs in order to grow the community. First of all, then the first and the most important and the most challenging and most time-consuming period is when you are really building the community. Because, you know, like one day you can create the funds, you can say that, okay, from tomorrow I will be financing the startups, but there won't be real startups. There will be like the people who think all the way, you know, and they will still apply to you, and they will not get your funding, and they will be angry, and etc. But you need to, when you say that you want to create the technology ecosystem, innovation ecosystem, first you need to grow the community. And we were doing lots of regional boot camps and trainings and hackathons and creatons, and we implemented pre-acceleration programs in the universities, and we are doing it always, every year, because you need to have a always work with new people with because you need to have a new flow in your portfolio, and you don't know from which part of your country or from which part of your community great innovation idea comes. You will never know. So it's better to go and scale in all region as much as possible. Of course, it depends of the budget you have, but it's very important to work with your population to give them the knowledge and instruments and tools in order to then later on create the startup projects. If they create the startup project, then we have, apart from the pre-acceleration program, we have access to finance programs. We have micro grants, we have mini grants as well, which is up to 150,000 lari, and we have also large grants, which is up to 750,000 Georgian lari, with different kind of matching components. Like micro grants is 100% covered from us, from 150,000 lari, which is, I think, our flagship granting program, because all very important startups has been created through this program, and it's not about the money, it's about how we are managing this process. That's why the Georgian startups who received this grant became successful. First of all, we are not doing Silicon Valley-like style grant competition in Georgia. It's not Silicon Valley-like, it's exactly Silicon Valley granting programs that we have in Georgia, because everything that, like all our grant competition in English, because we need to find the global scalable companies. Also, no government official in Georgia is not allowed to even read the applications. And we have international evaluators. And in this, actually, like in our grant competition, it's a US Market Access Center. Chris, even yesterday and today, he is evaluating Georgian startups right now because we have ongoing competition. And these guys, like amazing experts from Silicon Valley, they are evaluating Georgian startups. And then soon, like this Friday, they will give us finalists, list of the finalists of the startups, and then these people will coach these finalists. And like Chris made an amazing presentation about 5 things that they need to think, but like he will do like 1 week program for Georgian startups, and those Georgian startups who are already in the finals are getting amazing knowledge, amazing experience. Even though if they will not get the grant, they know how to work on their startups, how they need to improve in order then to raise capital and hopefully private capital. And then we have like one of the most famous venture investors, angel investors coming in our investment panel, and they are meeting finalists, and those judges are making final decisions who are the winner startups, and we are just then signing the contract with the startups and giving the money. And we have like Steve in our judge, Naomi, we have Jonathan here, Jonathan Tower as well, and like 3 of them is here in Uzbekistan, but we have also other great judges like Vice President from Oracle Corporation and CEO of the Garage Technology Venture, Bill Reichard, and etc. So very, very good and famous investors that we are attracting them to come in Georgia and to meet Georgian startups and to help us to make decisions which one is good. And then we have 750,000 lari granting program with exactly the same style of the decision-making process. One of the good things that we already have is that we attracted the well-famous international accelerator in Georgia, which is 500 startup, 500 global. They opened fully operational business, full office of the accelerator program in Georgia. And we are receiving applications not only from Georgia, but also from our neighboring countries. This is a regional program. So far, 30 startups already has gone through with this accelerator program, and definitely all of them raised in private investment. But right now, we signed another 4-year contract with 500 startups, so they will be in Georgia at least next 4 years. And also, they are right now even considering to create a VC fund as well through this acceleration program. We are also building the infrastructure for innovation. We are creating the tech parks all around the country in order to have a inclusion as much as possible, not only from the capital city, but outside of the capital city. We are doing also ICT skills development programs that we are training ICT professionals. Right now, 3,000 IT training program is ongoing, and we will be starting to train another 5,000 people. In this slide, I just want to show you that when you are supporting innovation, you should not focus only when people have idea, because you would say with the numbers of the programs that we have, the most number of the programs we have for the people who does not have any innovative ideas. But you need to work with people because they may come up with some good ideas, but you need to diversify with your different programs and with universities and with schools and with corporations, because we are doing also lots of work with corporations in Georgia in order to help them to also think that even in-house innovation or also work with the different kind of competitions to come up with some innovation solutions. But there's a different kind of programs in all stages of the development on idea, prototype, minimum viable product, and when you go to the market and in the growth stage as well. This is just, I'm showing you startup development cycle, and we are not still there like to be to have unicorns, but we are in a very good way on this regard. And the numbers that in the first part of the slide, it's written 30 million Georgian lari. This is the amount that we already invested from government side directly to Georgian startups, and we financed more than 200 startup projects. From the 200 startups, 35 of them already gone to the stage when they raised additional private investment, and they invested more than 350 million Georgian lari. And this is, you know, you will see that there are like just 2 Georgian startups who are in the start of the hyper growth, and lots of others are adding. Most of them are in the product market fit stage when you don't see like big capitals raising, because they need to prove that their product is fit to the market needs and etc. But we are going there, and with the process that we have, I think that soon enough we will have this result. And we are also working with the technology transfer pilot program. This is not the startup support. This is more like deep tech, scientific technologies that we are working with also universities and research institutions to help them to commercialize, to license their technology outside of the country. And we operate as a tech transfer office as well. And there should be one slide, maybe we missed somewhere, but when we were talking about the IT industry in Georgia, one of the good things in Georgia that we did together with the StrategEast is that we had a tax incentives for the companies, for the Georgian companies who have customers outside of the Georgia. They are getting amazing tax benefits. They are paying only 5% for salary taxes, and you know, like salary is the biggest tax burden for the IT companies because they don't have a big properties and etc. They don't pay VAT. So this was the biggest tax burden. And in the history of Georgia, there was never exception from the income tax in any industry. And this is the IT industry that benefits right now from the deduction from the profit tax. And like regular tax is 20% flat, and for IT companies it's only 5%. And the another tax benefit that they are getting is that from the profit tax, If they reinvest, it's 0%, but if they take a dividend, it's only 5% instead of the 15% which is regular in Georgia. And all other taxes are just zero for IT companies. So it led also very big international companies like EPAM, Ixtadel, and recently Viber opened its development office in Georgia. So actually like from May this year, any new updates that you received in your Viber messenger, it was developed in Georgia, in Tbilisi. So their full development office are in Tbilisi. So definitely we're proud that we achieved, but there's a very, very long way to go because we want to go to Silicon Valley. I mean, the panel name is also Road to Silicon Valley. Easiest and fastest way to go to Silicon Valley is to buy tickets to San Francisco, but this is just literally. But in other sense, you need to work like very, very, very hard to go there. So this is my brief. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Avta. Good luck with your road to Silicon Valley, but don't leave me in Tbilisi, okay? Take me also. Okay, I'm sure you are not tired and ready to listen to our last speaker. Generally, it's said that like the IT sector is for males. Even if you look at this audience and other audience from other conferences or forum, you will see more males. Even I was looking here and only 2 females I saw. But this session is distinguished. You see that 2 ladies are on the stage. And we have a lady here for the next presentation, Naomi Kokubo, who is co-founder and COO from Founderspace. Founderspace is a global innovation hub for entrepreneurs, corporations, and investments. They have over 50 partners in 22 countries. Okay, you can just share your experience, Naomi, and can you teach us how to climb a tree and reach the success?
Thank you for the introduction. My name is Naomi Kokubo, and let me say something about my background very, very briefly. I am born and educated in Japan, but I also studied in the US and the UK. And then after I finished school, I went to work for Morgan Stanley as a financial analyst. And then after that, I came to America, where I co-founded 2 venture-backed startup companies. And then I co-founded Founderspace. As our moderator mentioned, Founderspace has over 50 partners in 22 countries, and our partners include governments, NGOs, global corporations, as well as accelerators around the world. Okay, so as a Silicon Valley's launchpad, we work with startups and help them train so that they can raise capital in Silicon Valley, as well as access US market. We have actually over 300 mentors and advisors in our network who can help startups who come to Silicon Valley. Also, we help with the corporate innovations. What we do is to help them with their innovation process, as well as strategic planning, and access to new technologies through new startup companies that come into market. And now, we are looking to work with Eurasian countries, give them some support in innovation as well as startup ecosystem as we continue to expand our presence in Europe, Asia, and the United States, and other parts of America. I think what I learned by being here, this is my second time second country in this region. First one was in Georgia, and Uzbekistan is the second one. And what I learned is that there are lots of great support provided by the government and organizations. And it seems to me a lot of people are exposed to what you need to do to be a successful entrepreneurs and how to create the innovation ecosystem, which is wonderful. So let me talk about my experience, because I like hands-on work with startup companies. And before I came here to Uzbekistan this month, I actually worked with Austrian government organization supporting dozen startup companies looking to enter into US market. And among the gems of the gems they sent to Silicon Valley, by spending time with them, I found this one startup company that didn't shine when he tried to pitch his company. But by talking one-on-one, I learned amazing thing about this startup entrepreneur. He is actually from Afghanistan, and when he came, he didn't speak the language in Austria, and he said they were very poor. However, he has amazing entrepreneurial spirits and resilience. And what he ended up doing is joining a company and ended up buying that company. He was young, in his 20s. He went to the bank, tried to get the loan from the bank. Bank said no. Well, he's just a 20 or something from somewhere else. They didn't know in Austria. So what he thought was, because he's such an entrepreneur, he thought, okay, I need to have somebody else come with me to the bank. So he got 3 other older people, expert in the industries, to come with him to get the loan, and stump, he got the loan. And then he turned that company he bought to become $25 million revenue company in a very short while. And then from that revenue, he started another company. That's a solar panel company which went gangbuster because of the renewable energy boom. And then also, with his own money, he started this new company that he came to pitch and got selected by this Austrian government organization to come to Silicon Valley. Now, when he started to talk about his company, he focused his attention on robotic charger system for automobile, EV systems. And he has largest utility company in Austria backing him, and they don't want him to talk about more than that, because it in itself alone is extremely exciting, and he already even created the model that he premiered to this utility company, which is willing to give them a lot more money. Now, why did he come to Silicon Valley? Because even though he can't get as much money as he needs in his home country, but he's looking for smart money to get the vision that he has, which is much, much, much bigger than what he's doing in Austria, where everybody says, don't go there, that's too big, don't do this. So, but, he felt like he has to figure this out because he has this great vision that he wants to materialize and visualize and make it happen. And by talking with him back and forth, I saw this great vision, and I thought, this is the kind of entrepreneur that can actually really make it in Silicon Valley and make it big. And I was very, very honored to have found this young man who is willing to stake everything to make something happen. And if you are an entrepreneur here and have vision, not the small, another thing I would like to mention, a lot of company who comes to Silicon Valley from overseas, or even companies within Silicon Valley or in the US, have a much, much smaller vision. And that's not bad, but you need to have a real big vision to make world-changing company. And so if you are here looking to come to Silicon Valley, I hope that you wouldn't be discouraged by people surrounding you that, you know, that's kind of not going to happen. That's just too big. But dream big. Starting small is fine, but dream big. And that's very important to become very successful and change the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. So, thank you for the presentations. Thank you, speakers. Now we have the competition for the questions. So, who will be the first? Who will gonna ask the first question will get free local Samarkand tea with lemon. Who wants? Like, we have time for only 2 questions probably. Is there any volunteer to ask the first? Any questions about the startups? No? Tea with some cookies? No? Even no for free coffee? Okay, then I will, here we have, okay. Do I have the mic? For the coffee, oh, okay. Just introduce yourself and the question.
About the startup ecosystem and what needs to be done to actually create a community of founders. And there are lots of trainings, there are lots of accelerators, there are lots of programs. But if you look at the output, how many startups have actually gone to raise money? In Tajikistan, at least, it's a very small number, right? Very small number. So the question is, what needs to be done for smaller countries to have the ability to leapfrog, right? I mean, Georgia is a great case, but like, what are the insights for a country like Tajikistan, right? That is smaller than Uzbekistan, that has less foundation, but probably has the same quality of talent. What are the steps that need to be done to leapfrog the development of startup community?
That's a big question. From our experience of watching ecosystems develop around the world, one of the things that needs to happen is there actually needs to be a ground-up development of a community. Founders never are really successful going it alone. And if you look at all of the successful ecosystems around the world, there's always a community of founders that was not a top-down creation, but that was a bottom-up creation. It was 2 people started doing something, and they invited more people, and they invited more people. Even though my company is based in Silicon Valley, I live in Georgia right now. And for instance, there is an amazingly vibrant community built around the Startup Grind chapter, where, you know, founders are talking to each other, founders are getting together, founders are sharing with each other, founders are helping each other. And there was a comment about the lack of trust earlier. It's this ground-up collection of founders that creates the community. It is, I believe, one of the most overlooked things in terms of doing, you know, sort of how it is that you build startup ecosystems. You know, I look at, like, Jita has done an amazing job in Georgia, which is sort of coming down from the top, but there has to be an equally vibrant push from the bottom up to be able to partner with the government coming from the top down.
I think first, to me, that it's not to reinvent the wheel and see how other countries do. If they did it and it works, it just needs. Second, I think the sandbox approach. Our countries, we think too much of what will be implication on tax, what will happen if it doesn't work, and then it goes to all interministerial committees and all this. So we should very open for sandbox. This is your sandbox, play at least for 1-2 years. Works, we will regulate it. Not, sorry, that's it. Yeah. And third, I think in the progressive quality education investment, we don't invest enough in education. Education is key to all this. All other, it's a hype around it, and it would just play a little marketing, and that would work. That's just my point.
Yes, I will add from our side. I don't think like there's a one like the best way that how small countries like Tajikistan or Georgia should develop. We chose this path, and you don't know when the real result will come. Like we invested 330 million, they raised 350 million. It's relatively like very small, good risk, but it's a very small result. We need to have a big result. We need to have a unicorns. We need to have a big company that gives more visibility to Georgia, and then everything will be changed. It depends, but right now you need to focus more. Of course, like usually, like if we are lucky, I mean 10% of our startups will be successful. You cannot aim more than 10%, like most of them will fail, but they will learn, and maybe some of them who will fail, then later on they will create the different startup, or they will pivot it, like Steve mentioned yesterday in his presentation. Even Google and YouTube and etc. They had a total different things. They failed, and then but different kind of things happened in the ecosystem. Smaller countries in Georgia and Tajikistan is Estonia, and Estonia is performing very well. Also, this is also one good another thing, that if we are lucky that we have like 1-star startups, like it was Skype in Estonia and etc., then others will follow, and then will be more private sector involved, and also those people will also invest in etc. And right now we are seeing some good trends. One Georgian startup who had the exit already, they are becoming investors, mentors, supporting other startup projects and etc. But still a long way to go. But sometimes countries can be lucky, or I would not say lucky, but maybe in proper place, in proper time, you know, when they created something very good, and now everyone will follow, and it sets example for country and for whole region. Because what Estonia did, it set example not only from Estonia, but also from all Baltic countries, from Latvia, Lithuania, and etc.
Sorry. So small country, I don't think it matters whether you're from small country or bigger country, especially now, especially in this region. It seems to me there are lots of monetary help, lots of training help, and so the bottom down, I think, is happening. I think the bottom up portion is really the mindset, and that's something that very difficult to change. But what it needs is a little seed of belief that, okay, I'm going to just break through this. I'm going to go forward with this. Of course, there's a lot of different know-hows that you're learning from everybody, from the peers and from the top down, training systems and different process that goes through. But really the mindset that I can make this happen and I can do this. And even if there's a failure, I won't stop here. I'm keep going. I told you about the Ehsan from Afghanistan. You know what he did? He talked about his company that wasn't that interesting the way he first approached, but he persisted. He kept talking about it, and he kept bringing up different things, tried to communicate what his visions are, and finally broke through. And that's happened if you believe that I can, and not just be discouraged too much from the very beginning.
So, if I may add something, and it's a big question, thank you for it. It takes the entire panel to actually answer it, right? I want to offer a slightly different perspective from my 20 years of living and working in the West and in the East, right? It's not just the small countries or large countries. There's something more important at play here, because if you look at Israel, it's a tiny country, but it has a huge IT ecosystem there with lots of innovating products. That's mostly driven by the army, or in big part in the town there, but that's a different story, right? But you can also make a very interesting separation. It's a little bit controversial, but hear me out. There are high trust countries and low trust countries. And what that really means, it's very easy. In a high trust country, if you're an outsider or unknown or someone, but you have a great product, it's actually much easier for you to get support, to market, to go from the ground up. In the low trust countries, you need first to build up relationship. And it's actually very easy to understand if you're in a high trust country or low trust country. So in the high trust country, if your mobile phone usually, it's what? You get a monthly bill and it gets charged to your credit card, right? Because you trust your mobile operators. That's how it is, right? At the end of the month, you get the bill, all your charges are there, and usually you look at it and you just pay it, right? In the low trust country, you do what? You prepay, or at least the majority of people, is it like this, right? So the majority of people, they prepay every month. And that's a very simple, because the level of trust, even to the highest institution, like the mobile operators, is much lower. It's a statistic, right? So what happens is, if you're in a lower trust country, it's not just enough for, to get a lot of funding or change the laws or anything. The community, just like Chris said, is a lot more important, and there are ways to build that. And I think the best example of that is the Emirates, Dubai, where they don't just have a startup ecosystem, but for every type of the industry, like Web3 or IT or like media city, right? They build the media city first and they put the media companies there. They build the internet city and there are internet companies there, and they kind of, in that general soup, or however you call it, and they just work with each other and talk, and they build the trust first, and then they get to grow that way. Right now, even for the new industries like fintech, they have this whole huge fintech hub there, just for that, just to develop and build the trust first, with all the ideas and everything, and have the meetups and then grow. So my suggestion would be to do that first. Thank you.
Thank you. Because we don't have like much time, if you have very short question, kind of like yes, no question, we can listen to you. If not, we can just, do you want? Okay. You need to switch. One more question maybe, and one speaker will answer, and we will finish because we are beyond of time.
Okay. I plan also one coffee for me.
Okay.
So, hello, my name is Vasil Karaivanov. I'm chairman of the board of Sofia Tech Park. This is a science and technology park in Bulgaria. And my question is, generally, the dream of any startup is to get to the Silicon Valley and then become a unicorn. So it means that everybody is focusing in general to the market of the United States and maybe around there, Canada maybe. And as this is Eurasian forum and Eurasian region, what is your vision? Should startups focus much more on Europe and then to the United States, or should just jump like the frog across the ocean and go directly to the Silicon Valley? Thank you.
1 minute is enough for the answer.
I will say that they would focus in big markets. So big market is those countries, they should focus in big markets. So if we like say that, I mean, of course, like it is also associated with other things. For example, like when startups are becoming unicorn, not most likely, but with 100% assurances, they will be US registered companies, they will not be Georgian companies. Because even when they're raising the money, when US investors are investing money, they are becoming like the Delaware-based C Corp companies. But I mean, usually what happens in countries like Georgia, and not only countries like in Georgia, even like some Spanish startups or French startups, when they become big, they go to Silicon Valley. You know, you need to aim big, you need to have a big, but then investment that they're raising, and as these people are becoming millionaires and billionaires and etc., they try to support ecosystem, because if you say that you should be like the Georgian company only, or like the Tajikistan company or Kazakhstan company, then we are actually like the hindering their growth and their big successes. So yeah, my question is that they need to they need to work for the countries who they will pay for the products they're creating.
Okay, thank you, Otto. And maybe next panel will be very interesting for you also. IT investments will be the next panel. Please don't go. And also I want to remind you that if you just miss our presentations or speakers, or just you want to share the speeches to your friends, so we are on live on YouTube, and also follow StrategEast Facebook page. Thank you, Meta. We have the opportunity and chance to have a live video on our Facebook too, and you can share. Thanks, my speakers coming here, and thank you that you attended our session. So don't go.